Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we've got a lot of stuff to go over and cover in today's episode. First things first, starting off with the positive news, starting off with the big news of the day coming out of the Baltimore Ravens. Via Eric DeCosta himself. He goes up there this morning for a press conference. Everybody thinks it's just going to be like a 53-man roster update, a post, day after roster cut day press conference, like a lot of GMs do around the league. And Eric DeCosta, to everyone's surprise, goes up there today and announces a 4-year, $100 million extension with Kyle Hamilton, making him the highest paid safety in the NFL currently and also ever. He's the highest paid safety in NFL history, and he deserves it so much. He's been obviously incredible for the Ravens over the past few years. One of the best defensive players, in my opinion, the best player on defense for the Ravens. Him and Roquan Smith are really the two leaders, but for a guy like Kyle Hamilton, obviously getting him in the draft, a few years ago, getting him in the draft where we did at pick 14, him falling to us, just that whole sequence of everything that went on that year, for him to come to the Ravens was an absolutely incredible gift from God, because Kyle Hamilton, there hasn't been many players that have really fit in as perfectly with the team than Kyle Hamilton does with the Ravens. He is meant for this team. He's meant for the Ravens. And he's proved that. He's put up all pro seasons, been a multiple-time Pro Bowler, and really is considered the best safety in football. Even though like Madden ratings or something like that won't really agree, Kyle Hamilton is overall the best safety in football. His versatility, the way that he plays, the way that he sees things on the field, and the way that he really is a leader on defense as well, is incredible. He's the leader really of the secondary. Obviously, of him and Marlon Humphrey is like the two leaders of that secondary. You got Roquan Smith in the middle at linebacker with the mic most of the time. This defense is obviously in an incredible spot right now to be successful, and the Ravens arguably have a top 3 to 5 defense. I don't even know if it's arguable. Like, they have a top 5 defense in the NFL, and a lot of that has to do with Kyle Hamilton. He was a player who was under contract for the rest of the season, and he was going to be a free agent after this year. And obviously, him and Tyler Linderbaum were the two biggest names that we had to get under contract, because next season, if we want to go over and look at like the offseason for this upcoming offseason for the Ravens and want to talk about some free agents that are going to be there, you got guys like Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, and you got guys that you want to get under contract. But Kyle Hamilton is obviously at the top of the list for free agents next year, and the Ravens were able to go out there and get him on that extension. It was super cool. He had a press conference. He said a lot of thank yous, a lot of great words. So we're going to go over a little bit of that and more in a second. But also in this episode, we're going to be going over and talking about the Orioles game that just ended about like 10 minutes ago, where they unfortunately lost again to the Boston Red Sox. They are currently down 0-3 in this 4-game series, so they already have lost the series to the Red Sox no matter what happens tomorrow. If they win tomorrow, they get swept. If they win tomorrow, they avoid getting swept, and then if they lose tomorrow, they get swept. And it's going to be by far the hardest game of the series to win, because tomorrow we have to go against Garrett Crochet in an early game. So facing Garrett Crochet in a day game, not really what you would want to do, but let's see if the Orioles can find a way to pull it off. I don't know. Today, the Orioles had a 2-1 lead going into the 9th inning, and then Keegan Aiken gives up a 2-run homer, and now all of a sudden, the Red Sox were up 3-2, and then Aroldis Chapman came in for the save, and Aroldis Chapman hasn't given up a hit in like the past 41 batters now, so he's literally like untouchable this year, even for the age that he is, even for where he is in his career. The fact that he's still going out there and pumping 101 down the middle is just crazy for the age that he is. But Aroldis Chapman gets the save. The Red Sox win the day. The Orioles lose once again. They've lost 3 straight games, all to the Red Sox, and they have to try and avoid the sweep tomorrow, which, I mean, at this point, it's just a little disappointing. I mean, the offense today wasn't anything great. We only scored 2 runs. really thanks to Dylan Beavers was a big contributor. Dylan Beavers and Dylan Carlson were the two guys that drove in the runs today. Samuel Basayo didn't get a hit. Kobe Mayo had a really good 13 to 14 pitch at bat at the end of the game against Aroldis Chapman, so that was cool to see. But unfortunately, Chapman did end up striking out Mayo. But overall, the offense didn't really do anything. The pitching, it was a bullpen day today, so I wasn't really expecting much from the pitching. But for it being a bullpen game, they actually played pretty solid. Dentrich Enns got the start. He gave up a run. And then Contreras went through 4 or 5 innings, didn't give up a run, and then Keegan Aiken came in the 8th inning, got through 2 innings, gave up the 2-run homer in the 9th inning, and unfortunately the Orioles ended up losing. But let's just go over this Kyle Hamilton extension first real quick. So obviously we already talked quite a bit about the Kyle Hamilton extension. We talked about just overall how we got him, overall just the whole vibe of the entire situation. And Eric DeCosta today went up there, announced the Kyle Hamilton extension. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I have it pulled up on here. Kyle Hamilton signing the deal. He's looking happy. He's looking good. But Kyle Hamilton signs the extension. Obviously, again, Kyle Hamilton is so incredibly important to this defense, and the fact that the Ravens were able to get him back is amazing. And Eric DeCosta even said this today in the press conference. He said he understands that there's so many good players on this Ravens team, and he knows that he's not going to be able to get everybody back. But obviously, I'm not even going to talk about the Lamar Jackson extension from a few years ago, because that's already happened. We've already got him under contract. But the players that I think a lot of people were expecting to hopefully get extended this offseason was obviously Ronnie Stanley, going because he was a free agent this year. We brought back Ronnie Stanley on a team-friendly deal. We re-signed Rashad Bateman. We re-signed Kyle Hamilton, obviously, and then also we re-signed Derrick Henry. So lots of key, important players of this team are all getting re-signed. But if we think about some players with upcoming contracts that are going to be expiring soon, for example, if we think about this upcoming offseason, where there's going to be quite a lot of people going into free agency, even though we locked down Derrick Henry, locked down Kyle Hamilton, there still is going to be, Tyler Linderbaum, obviously, in my opinion, the best center in football, one of the best offensive linemen in general in football. He's a young stud. He's going to get paid a lot of money. He's a free agent. Obviously, he's very important. He's probably the most important person that we have to re-sign that's next, in line for an extension. So obviously, Tyler Linderbaum, you've got Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews both going into free agency at the same time. And to be honest with you, I would expect the if I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys, I would expect the Ravens to only re-sign one of those two guys. I just don't think with the amount of money that we have to work with, I just don't think that it's even possible to bring back Andrews and Likely, unless Andrews takes a team-friendly deal, because I do think that we're going to decide to pay Isaiah Likely the money that he deserves sometime, whether it's this offseason or next offseason or sometime during the year. I think that we're going to decide to pay Isaiah Likely the money that he deserves. I think we're going to move on from Mark Andrews. And I do think that Isaiah Likely is going to be the guy to go to. He is younger, and I just think long-term it would be a lot better for Lamar. Even though getting Mark Andrews back on a team-friendly deal would be great, but I just don't think that that's going to happen. I'm not sure. But obviously those are 3 of the main guys going into free agency this offseason. Also, Adafe Owe on defense is someone else as well, who could make a very big impact this year for the Ravens coming off the edge. But then you think about the year after that, then you have Zay Flowers, and then I also think that you have Lamar Jackson as well. And there's been conversations about a Lamar Jackson extension for this offseason. There's been conversations about obviously the Kyle Hamilton extension, the Tyler Linderbaum extension, and the Ravens locked down Kyle Hamilton for the next 4 years. We're good to go. It's a 4-year extension, so technically it's 5 years because he plays out the rest of this year plus the extra 4 years added on to this season. So just incredible work by Eric DeCosta. He continues to not I wouldn't say prove everybody wrong, but he continues to just go out there and do incredible work as a general manager, and I'm so unbelievably grateful to have a general manager like Eric DeCosta, because you look around the NFL, and there's a lot of guys out there who are cheap. There's a lot of GMs who don't really know what they're doing, and it makes their franchise in a very not great position. I'm thinking about teams like the Browns and the Jets and the Titans and teams like that, whose general manager and their management really holds the team back from being good or from getting anywhere in terms of just progression of a franchise. But Eric DeCosta and the Ravens, obviously DeCosta hasn't been the general manager forever. That belongs to Ozzie Newsome for a long time. But the Ravens have always been a franchise that has always been very respected, very high, etiquette, very high working. And you look around the league, like at front offices and franchises like the Steelers, like the Ravens, like even the Patriots, like the Packers, like the Chiefs. Like, you look at these franchises that really hold themselves to a certain expectation, and they always seem to live up to that. To be honest with you, they always seem to live up to it. The Ravens, again, and another stat with like the Ravens never having the first overall pick in a draft, like that's just another thing that kind of attests to the fact that the Ravens really haven't had to go through like a hard rebuilding era. If you want to talk about like the Lamar Jackson or the Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson, transition. It wasn't because of a rebuild. I mean, we traded back into the first round and drafted Lamar in 2018, and we weren't tanking with Joe Flacco, but the team was mid, and it wasn't really going anywhere up. But it was just mid. It was kind of like the Steelers now. We were not really good enough to really compete in the playoffs, but we also weren't bad enough to get like a bottom 3 pick in the draft. So we were kind of stuck in like where the Steelers are, or where the Steelers have been over the past few years, where they just like are always stuck in the middle. And obviously the Lamar Jackson transition is what saved this, not really saved, but it really did, bloom this franchise even more to where they are now, where it's an expectation at this point to, make the playoffs, win the division, and, have a deep run. And hopefully that year is going to be this year, because the Ravens have done 3 great extensions this offseason, obviously with Kyle Hamilton, Derrick Henry, and Ronnie Stanley, also signing guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Jair Alexander. There's been a lot of great work done this offseason, but it really does solidify the future of this team even more, because this Ravens team, like, they have a lot of young, homegrown players, guys like Kyle Hamilton, guys like Tyler Linderbaum, guys like Lamar Jackson, guys like that, who are homegrown players who are still young. And it's not like this Ravens team, their Super Bowl window is like shut after this year. And I've always said this. There's certain quarterbacks out there where as long as those guys are your quarterback, you always have a chance. Guys like Patrick Mahomes, guys like Lamar Jackson, guys like Josh Allen, guys like Joe Burrow, guys like, Jane Daniels potentially can be that quarterback as well. Guys who, when they're on your team, it doesn't really matter what the team around you looks like. You always have a chance to win the whole thing because you understand how good and how much of a leader that these quarterbacks are. And this Ravens team not only is set for now, it also is set for the future, and it gets set for the future a lot better defensive-wise with this Kyle Hamilton extension. So this is a huge, huge deal. And also something that I want to talk about is when John Harbaugh today, there was no practice today for the Ravens, but because it was the day after the roster cutting stuff, and I think we are resuming practice tomorrow. But John Harbaugh came out today and he said at the press conference, everyone was kind of talking at the press conference. It was Eric DeCosta, it was Kyle Hamilton, it was John Harbaugh, and it was also Jay Higgins also had a little bit of like a press conference talking about him making the team and all that stuff. But Kyle Hamilton and John Harbaugh was talking about the extension and how important it is, obviously. But at the end, he said, and that's not going to be all. Like, he said, like, this isn't going to be the only extension, because he mentioned the fan base of the Ravens. He mentioned the fan base, how the fan base wanted this so much, and he said, like, and there's going to be more of this, or something along those lines, kind of indicating that the Ravens are not done extending players this offseason. So we could very well see a potential Tyler Linderbaum or Lamar Jackson extension, and I think that it is more likely for a Lamar Jackson extension, because then Eric DeCosta in his press conference, he kind of glazed over the fact that he said, there's a lot of talent on this Ravens team, but we're not going to be able to keep all these guys, and there's going to be guys that end up leaving that are really good, and we're just going to have to deal with it and move on. So I don't really know who he's referring to. I don't know if he's referring to Tyler Linderbaum or Zay Flowers or what it's going to be. I know he's not referring to Lamar Jackson, because I know this team, every extension that they've done this offseason with Derrick Henry, Callum Hamilton, Ronnie Stanley, and all the free agents that they signed for 1-year deals with D-Hop and Jair, all of these contracts that have been formed, you kind of have to maneuver around the fact that a potential Lamar Jackson contract extension is looming. So you're it's kind of like chess in a way. You're setting up these contract extensions in a way to where you still have the money and the room to then eventually extend Lamar Jackson on that mega deal whenever it happens. So will a Lamar Jackson extension happen before the season starts? I'm not sure, but there's a part of me that really does think that it's possible that we see Lamar getting extended. As for Tyler Linderbaum, I don't know if we're going to extend Tyler Linderbaum. He's going to probably ask for a lot of money, and he deserves it. It's one of those things that, again, you have to pick and choose what players you want to bring back, and then obviously you have to think about, getting Isaiah or Mark Andrews, one of the tight ends, back. We know how important tight ends are to this offense, so that's the whole thing. So just expect to see another Ravens extension this offseason sometime. So I just have a feeling we're going to do one more based on what John Harbaugh said. It might be soon, it might be it might be tomorrow, who knows, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. But again, this is a huge deal, a huge extension, and I'm over the moon at the fact that Cal Hamilton is staying on this team for at least another 4 years. But now switching things up to a more negative light with the Baltimore Orioles. And unfortunately, again, the Orioles lose this game 3-2 to the Red Sox. The Orioles record sits at 60-73 on the season, 13 games below 500, back to the sweet spot of what we of 2025 Orioles baseball in terms of our record. But going over this offense, again, not really much happened today regarding the offense. Yesterday we got shut out. Today we only scored 2 runs. The Orioles had 5 hits, scored 2 runs on those 5 hits. Went 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position, left 5 guys on base. And going throughout this game, Jackson Holliday went 0 for 4. His average is down to a 240 on the dot. And we had a whole conversation yesterday about Jackson Holliday. I'm not going to repeat it because it's going to get exhausting, because I understand that people are going to complain about Jackson Holliday's production as of recently and stuff like that. And I understand. But I think people need to really also understand that he's 21 years old. And he's hitting a little bit of a wall right now. But there is still plenty of time for Jackson Holliday to figure things out going, throughout the rest of this year, for the next month, and obviously next season as well. We've obviously seen great improvements with him this year. Is it as big as improvements as, we might have wanted to see? Maybe not. But again, people just need to chill out about it and just let him develop and let things just happen, and trust the process with Jackson Holliday, because he's someone that I'm willing to bet my life on that he ends up being a superstar one day, because we've seen so much potential already in his young career. But Jackson Holliday 0 for 4. Jeremiah Jackson continues to just hit the ball well. He goes 1 for 3 in this game. His average is at a 324. And how many at-bats has Jeremiah Jackson had? He's played in 22 games. He's got 7 at-bats, and he's sitting at a 3.24 ERA. That is incredible work by Jeremiah Jackson, who's sitting at the 2 spot right now. He played third today as well. Gunnar Henderson in this game went 0 for 4. Ryan Mountcastle went 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Colton Cowser went 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Samuel Basayo went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Kobe Mayo went 1 for 4 with a run scored. And then Dylan Beavers went 2 for 2. Dylan Beavers was the only Oriole in this game that had multiple hits. So shout out to Dylan Beavers. Again, Dylan Beavers has been incredible in this game. Beavers had 3 total at-bats in this game, went 2 for 2 with a walk and a RBI and a run scored. So Dylan Beavers was, of the 2 runs that the Orioles scored today, he drove in a run and he scored a run. So shout out to Dylan Beavers, once again, player of the game on this offense. And he continues to hit in the 7, 8, 9 area. And that's what Tony Mansolino said. I don't really fully understand it, but we'll let him do him, I guess. But Beavers, 2 for 2, a run scored, an RBI, and a walk. Gets on base all 3 times. And Dylan Beavers, and I do want to highlight this because he's been incredible this year. He has had, what is this now, 35 at-bats this year. He's had 35 at-bats, and he's sitting at a 344 average, a 475 on-base percentage, and a 563 slug. With multiple multi-hit games. He had a double and a single today. He was incredible in this game. Shout out to Dylan Beavers. He is going to be such a key part of this offense for a long time. You can already tell. And he's also kind of like the perfect leadoff guy as well. So we'll see what this management and whatever happens this offseason, because this is going to be a wild offseason for the Orioles. Whoever ends up being our manager, we'll see where they go. But I do think that Dylan Beavers, obviously it's a small sample size, but I do think eventually, with just the type of player he is, like a pure contact on-base guy, that's, a recipe for success as a leadoff hitter. So we'll see what happens with Dylan Beavers going forward, but he has been incredible for the Orioles this year. And then Dylan Carlson in this game goes 1 for 3, and he also drove in the other run, which was Dylan Beavers. So Dylan Carlson, Dylan Beavers, the 8 and 9 hitters for the Orioles today, ended up being all the offense and drove in both of the runs that they scored today. So overall, the offense wasn't great. Neither was the Red Sox offense, but again, one of those situations where with the 2025 Orioles, it's just never enough. And going over to the Orioles pitching, Dentrich Ends got the start today. It was a bullpen game, and for it being a bullpen game, the Orioles only used 3 pitchers, so was really able to save the bullpen today. So that was good. Dentrich Ends gets 2.2 innings, gives up 2 hits, no walks, 1 run. It was a solo home run to Roman Anthony in the first inning. It was actually the first batter. And then Contreras goes through 4.1 innings, gives up 0 runs across 4.1 innings. He played great. And then Keegan Aiken came in. He gets the loss on the day. 2 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, which was a 2-run homer. And that was the eventual go-ahead home run in the top of the 9th inning to give the Red Sox the lead, and the Orioles blew a 1-run lead in the 9th inning. We've seen that a few times this year. Just one of those losses, again, where you just kind of shrug your head and move forward. But to be honest with you, that's going to be like all of the losses moving forward throughout this year, because, again, all of our minds are focused on 2026 Orioles baseball. Right now, we're just kind of watching for player development, watching for any sort of momentum heading into next season. But going over to the game tomorrow, because, again, the Orioles are down 0-3 in this series. If they lose tomorrow, they get swept. If they win tomorrow, they avoid getting swept, but they still lose the series. So either way, it's, not great. And tomorrow, we just happen to be playing against arguably the best pitcher in the American League. You got Skubal and Crochet as like the 2 best pitchers in the American League. They're the 2 guys up there for Cy Young right now. And Garrett Crochet is pitching for the Red Sox tomorrow in a noon game at 12:05. Garrett Crochet this season, 14-5, a 2.38 ERA, 166 innings with 200 strikeouts. He has been insane this year. And every time I see Garrett Crochet, I do get a little upset at myself, because going back to this past offseason, because obviously the Red Sox did trade for Crochet in this offseason from the White Sox. And I just go back to this offseason, and I go back to all the reports that I saw from John Heyman and Bob Nightingale and Jeff Passan even, and all these guys who were kind of talking about the Orioles and the Red Sox being the 2 teams that were most aggressive for Garrett Crochet. And the Orioles apparently were right there for Crochet, but just didn't do the extra thing that they needed to do. Whatever that was, they just didn't do the extra thing that they needed to do to get Crochet, and the Red Sox did, and that's why they ended up winning those sweepstakes. But Garrett Crochet was almost an Oriole. He was somebody that I think that the Orioles pursued a lot. Guys like Garrett Crochet, Nathan Eovaldi, Max Fried, obviously Corbin Burns, getting him back on a contract. Guys like that I know are people that we ended up going after. And obviously we didn't get anybody that we ended up going after, of course, because that's just what our management is. And hopefully that gets turned around, and hopefully that whole narrative gets shut down this offseason. So I'm really looking forward to a big offseason from Mike and David, but we'll see what happens with that. But unfortunately, Garrett Crochet is not an Oriole. If he was an Oriole, this season probably would be going a lot differently. But we got Cade Povich tomorrow against Garrett Crochet. Am I confident? No. I'm not very confident in this game, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully Cade Povich can go out there and just limit the damage as much as he can. And hopefully the Orioles can do well against Garrett Crochet. I mean, not a lot of teams have been able to do that this year, so hopefully the Orioles can do something special against Garrett Crochet. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with that. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. Again, my name is Nathan Stroud. I appreciate all the support you guys have given me. I appreciate all of you guys tuning in and listening. This is a dream of mine, being able to talk about the Orioles and talking about the Ravens. This has been a daily show. We're 138 episodes in. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of surreal. I appreciate everybody who's been tuning in, Spotify, YouTube, whatever it is. And if you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow up on that Spotify. Make sure to click the link in the bio of whatever platform you're listening on to check out the socials, check out the Instagram, check out the Twitter. Make sure to give those a follow. I post live updates to things in real time when they happen, so make sure to give those a follow. Again, tough loss for the Orioles today. I mean, I've said that probably 1,000 times already, but big extension for the Ravens today, getting Cal Hamilton back, so that was very good news. So not all is lost in today's episode in terms of negative or positive news. So yeah, Cal Hamilton extension, that's big. Tomorrow the Orioles play Garrett Crochet, and also Ravens practice is back tomorrow, so if anything big happens tomorrow, any sort of updates, we'll discuss that as well. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great sales day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.